Hi, my name is Ronnie Gibbs, and I'm doing the analysis of the Milagro Beanfield War. And so I'll start off with the summary. It's basically about a small community in Milagro, New Mexico, in the 1980s, and the town, small town, and they are facing a developer looking to come and remove their their town and replace it with a whole new shopping center and residential development. His name's Lad Divine, and him and along with the other investors will essentially ruin the tight-knit community of Milagro. Now, the conflict comes from Joe Mondragon, and he begins to farm his father's old bean field. Well, this begins to set off a ripple effect as the community comes to support him while the investors and Mr. Divine look to crush him. They use the authorities and they use Detective Montana to try and stop him. They do whatever they can, they even bribe him, and nothing works. The setting is actually, according to IMDb, in 5 different New Mexico sites. Now, it was kind of interesting because I thought it had a old west kind of feel. It was real kind of deserted, and the town really wasn't much, but it was kind of the rivalry between the good and the bad guys. And the town was, like I said, kind of old-fashioned, but yet when you see Joe at the end of the film trying to run away from the authorities, it's just a beautiful land with trees everywhere, and you actually see a whole panoramic view of it when Mr. Vine's actually overlooking the entire property. Now, to analyze the characters and analyze their political, moral, and ethical values, I kind of try to take secondary and primary characters from the film, and I analyzed kind of their attitudes and how some of them changed throughout the film. The political, I immediately thought of Charlie Bloom, the newspaper editor and former lawyer, who partners up with Ruby as they become more of a team that kind of get the city aware of the possibility of their town being demolished and their way of life and being forced out by this new development. They raise awareness, which I feel is a very important thing to do when you are trying to stop something you're against, as well as promoting support. And they wrote in the city newspaper, which spread the word, and they even had town gatherings that had the entire town of Milagro to form up, and they let them know the real possibility, and they gave them the truth, which some were very much opposed to. So I thought they showed their political values, but I thought at the very ending, when the Detective Montana attempts to arrest Joe out in the bean field and the whole town is there, I thought that was showing the town's kind of political view of they were standing up against the authorities, against the government, and they were stating what they felt was right, and they defended their town and their way of life, and I thought that connected more with the political values than really, the ethical or moral. To transition into the moral values, I thought Joe faced the most moral decisions. He had to decide whether he was going to continue growing the bean field. He was bribed by Mr. Devine into getting great work and incredible pay. And then he also had to decide, after he accidentally shot Mr. Cordova, the crazy old guy that saw people, he had to decide whether he was going to stay or if he was going to run. Now, I thought it was very admirable how he continued to grow his father's Beanfield, because it's showing he's continuing the legacy as well as fighting against Mr. Devine, and showing support for his community. But then I thought it was a little curious that he ran away when he shot Mr. Cordova. I thought that kind of showed a weakness in his armor, and I thought, he seemed like a prideful man, really about family and his community, yet I thought it was a little strange that he ran away. So that showed there was a little question mark, and I guess not everyone's perfect. I thought the right thing for Joe to do, even though to his credit he did return, I thought it would be proper for him to stay when he shot Mr. Cordova and do everything he can to save him. Now, the ethical values of the characters, I looked at Mr. Devine and Shorty, who they weren't main characters, but they were secondary characters that played an important role. Mr. Devine, obviously, the developer looking to destroy the community and put his own entire community in. I thought he kind of faced a ethical issue of, should I take this small group of people's life away, their way of life, and increase my own personal wealth, as well as possibility for a new life for so many others who can move, create new jobs, new luxuries. He mentioned even a golf course, and I thought he chose greed over all of those. I thought he ethically he faced a decision of what to do, and I think I didn't think he made the wrong decision. I think he made the selfish decision. Now, I think of Shorty as you first introduced in the film as working construction. He's kind of Mr. Devine's kind of right-hand man in a way, and I feel throughout the film he realizes this dilemma of supporting a small group of people that are rightfully belong to the land, or supporting the money, I guess you could say. And I think he made a great decision. I think he shows that he realized the ethical decision, and he really valued, the people's way of life. And I thought it was interesting that at the end of the film he even helps out Joe, who is more or less the catalyst of protecting the community and the people there, and he helps him escape from Mr. Montana and kind of gives him the heads up of, hey, you need to go back, and shows, yeah, I've got your back and I support you guys. So I thought that was a really cool twist that I liked that director Robert Redford included, and although he was a secondary character, I think he showed the most value ethically. And so in conclusion, the Milagro Beanfield War took place in New Mexico, used plenty of different sites in New Mexico, and the characters showed moral, ethical, and political values. Some of these are main characters like Ruby and Joe, and then other are secondary characters, kind of like Mr. Devane and Shorty. And in the film, I think they all showed it. Multiple other people could have, but I feel these were the primary characters that best demonstrated these values. And that is all. Thank you.